BYU joining the Big 12. It's done, in this man's opinion. I pretty much believe this is over now. The only question remaining is who stays with BYU in the Big 12. That's BYU's only concern. That's why this deal's not done. The Big 12 is trying to circle the wagons, if you will, and figure out which of its membership is staying. If they can somehow hang on to the remaining 8 teams outside of Oklahoma and Texas, it's over. BYU is going to join the Big 12. The other question for me, if I'm BYU, who's joining the Big 12 with me? Is it Houston? Is it SMU? Is it one of those ridiculous Florida schools that nobody would care about? Either way, BYU has to know who else is going to be in the Big 12, and will the Big 12 be a viable P5 conference? A lot of people say this is a no-brainer, Jake. Are you among them?
Yeah, I mean, so I think for BYU, the biggest thing right now is that you have to understand how much flexibility you have being an independent. So the last thing you want to do is join a P5 just for the sake of saying you're in a P5, but then have all this, rigidity and rules you got to follow and just all this stuff that you have to deal with. I think for BYU, you want to make sure that you're not hurting your chances of a national championship by joining the Big 12. Because again, I think we talk about this a lot, but I really think it's a pertinent point for BYU where you have this situation because Tom Holmoe is so good at scheduling and he gets all this SEC talent on the schedule that, going to the Big 12 could really change the dynamic of your postseason hopes. So that would be my only thing. I think overall it's a good move for BYU. I think, joining the P5, obviously from a college football playoff committee standpoint, helps your chances of getting into the college football playoff. But I think now, the excuse of, hey, we won 5 games because we played all these SEC teams and all these really good teams kind of goes away. Like by joining the Big 12, don't the expectations go up in the win column? Wouldn't you say, hey, we're joining a P5, we're joining the Big 12. There are a lot of teams in this conference that we should be able to handle. So to me, I think it's pretty much all pluses outside of the college football playoff dynamic. I'll just be interested to see, how that all sort of plays out, if that makes sense.
Well, the thing that really comes to mind is not that you want to be in a P5. Clearly you do. I mean, it makes your path to the national championship that much easier. But when you look at BYU's situation, I think one of the things that we have to get, straight away cleared up is that BYU's not desperate. And a lot of people this weekend, listening to the news, reading the news, a lot of people want to paint BYU as desperate to get into a conference. BYU's not desperate. And one of the things I think really has come out of this whole Big 12 discussion is that a lot of people in this country don't understand the situation that BYU is in. I read everything from BYU is financially strapped, which is ridiculous, to BYU needs more national TV games, which is ridiculous.
Laughable.
I mean, it's amazing to me how many big-name college football insiders don't understand the situation or really the what's the right way to say it? The circumstances that BYU finds themselves in. BYU made this bet in independence, and they are happily laying in it. And they are thriving in independence. This idea that they're struggling or they're not relevant, if we learned anything last year in 2020, 2021, it's that BYU sure the heck is relevant.
Yeah.
And I think that's why now, when you have a conference like the Big 12 that absolutely has to add membership, I think it's imperative that they land BYU. And again, I don't think this is a question of does the Big 12 want BYU? It does. The question is, does BYU want the Big 12? Should BYU wait? Should BYU hope that there is another invitation or another mega merger coming? I don't know. I think if I'm BYU, again, not to be redundant, I need 2 questions answered. Who's staying and who's coming with me? That's the biggest question, because BYU, if you put them into the Big 12, especially without Oklahoma and Texas, I don't know how BYU's not favored in that conference every single year in football.
Yeah.
And I'm being serious.
Yeah, I agree.
If you think about what's left there, I don't know that BYU has that much trouble A, building because they're going to instantly become more credible to recruits, and B, I think they're automatically in the conference championship game straight away. If you don't make the Big 12 conference championship game every year, I think that's a problem if you're BYU, right? But the question is, should BYU do this now? You've had such a good run in independence, and you've made so much headway. There is no doubt in my mind, and maybe you disagree, Jake, I don't know.
Yeah.
Joining the Big 12 right now is a risk.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely risk in it, but I also think that, I guess it really depends on what your goal is. Like, to me, in the program, the goal is to make money every year, obviously, to be in the black, as Tom Homo said, but also to be relevant and to play meaningful football. I mean, that is part of what sort of feeds a great program. I mean, think about it. You're walking into some offensive lineman's living room with his parents sitting there, and you're trying to sell him a program that doesn't really have, I mean, yes, BYU conceivably as an independent could get to the college football playoff, but right now I think we can all agree, they don't really have too much of a shot unless they go perfect in their season. Unless they just win every single game and do it in dominant fashion, you're not getting into the college football playoff as it currently sits. So to me, from a program standpoint, the health of the program, joining a P5 to me really helps your recruiting because you're still going to have, right, and tell me if I'm wrong, but you're still going to have the ESPN contract, right, if you're BYU. So you're still going to be able to sell off of that. You're now going to be able to say, hey, man, we're in a P5 conference. We're in the Big 12. You're gonna be on TV week in and week out. And we want to go ahead and win the conference and get into the college football playoff. So to me, there's a lot of upside here. I agree with you. It is largely contingent on who comes with BYU and who doesn't. But at the end of the day, if I'm Tom Homo and I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, what will be more productive for us as an institution from a sporting perspective? To me, joining the Big 12 is more productive. You can do more with it. You can recruit at a higher level. I'm sure there are a ton of opportunities to make even more money than you already do. So to me, if you just look at it from the health of the program, it's a no-brainer to join the Big 12. I just think the only downside is who you're going to be playing every single week because right now you play a lot of good teams.
Well, is the money better? Because I think this is a significant discussion as well.
Yeah.
Tom Homo, got a lot of fanfare for saying that BYU operates in the black. They're a profitable athletic department. And a lot of that obviously is basketball and football. And a lot of that is their relationship with ESPN. And a lot of that is their ability to brand their radio network, to brand their stadium, all of these opportunities that cannot go away. I think, by the way, the ESPN relationship is a critical factor for the Big 12. They need that relationship intact.
Need that exposure.
And the question is, how much money does BYU make in addition to what they make now by joining the Big 12? I think you have to ask that question. And I think a lot of people are trying to be inflammatory in this discussion, and I'm telling you I'm not. I know it sounds crazy. BYU should be in no hurry to accept this invitation. The Big 12 needs BYU. They are almost desperate for BYU because if you look at the other contenders to join this conference, listen, SMU and Houston are almost no-brainers, right? But not both of them at the same time.
Yeah.
There's no value in that for the Big 12. SMU or Houston with BYU, now you're cooking with gas, right? Central Florida and SMU, Central Florida and Houston.
What do you have to hold on there?
Cincinnati and Central Florida.
No.
Really? Does that feel big? Does that feel good? It doesn't. You BYU and you can bring me Sunday play and they don't like gay people in Provo. We can have all those discussions. But there's one thing you're never going to get away from, whether you love BYU or hate BYU. They're one of the most consistent P5 teams in the country. They have been since they joined independence. Tom Homo has written a schedule that most teams would salivate to have. It is without doubt that BYU has been able to dominate the transfer market. They have recruited much better. They are doing much, much better in the state of Utah than anybody anticipated they would. I'm telling you now that BYU doesn't need the Big 12 as much as the Big 12 needs BYU. And for me, I look at the other schools in this conference and I simply ask myself, who is staying and is anybody else going? Because Baylor, Iowa State, the Kansas schools, those are obviously teams that are, those are no-brainers. You have to have those teams. West Virginia, Texas Tech, TCU, Oklahoma State. What does Oklahoma State do now? I mean, without your big brother in Oklahoma, you lose a key game every year. Now you become a thorn in the side of Oklahoma scheduling. Like, how much relevance does the Big 12 have, even if you add BYU and SMU, who I think are the two that make the absolute most sense? How much relevance does this conference have?
I mean, not a lot, but certainly more than the Pac-12 does, but I don't think, I don't really think a ton has changed. I mean, losing these two schools, Texas and Oklahoma, obviously is a huge loss on both fronts. But when you look at, if we take an honest look at college football, when was the last time, anybody really cared about Texas all that much? Outside of the big Fox game where you've got, Ellinger against whoever it is that particular day. I mean, that was the draw with Texas. So with Texas, I'm like, it kind of depends on the year. Kind of depends, who they got a quarterback.
How's the Oklahoma game looking?
Yeah,
how is the Red River shootout?
But at least with Oklahoma, they put out quarterbacks, right? We can at least say Oklahoma puts out big time quarterbacks.
Well, and they don't change coaches every other year. They don't have booster problems. They Texas. I don't disagree at all. I think Texas has been a significant disappointment for a lot of the fan base and for a number of years. I mean, I think Oklahoma is the prize there. If you're the SEC, there's no doubt. But having said that, one good year out of Texas puts you back in the Vince Young Rose Bowl days.
Right.
One good win
out of
that's
a perfect example.
Yeah, one good year out of Texas, and this is a moot point. If Texas joins the SEC, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier to find your next Vince Young. If Texas joins the SEC, it's going to make them a juggernaut. I mean, with the Longhorn Network and their ability to recruit, being on national TV, the SEC has one of the best TV deals in the country. I mean, it makes Texas and Oklahoma much better.
Yeah.
And the question is, I don't know what you do if you're the Big 12. Because really, I think you need to add more than two teams. I think you need to go poaching. I think you need to go and you need to hope, frankly, that you're able to. I would attack the Pac-12. If I am any other conference, I'm attacking the Pac-12.
Yeah.
Because as a Colorado, you're hugely disappointed in your relationship with the Pac-12. You haven't made any money. It hasn't risen your profile. I don't think there's any question that there are teams in the Pac-12 that are not married to the Pac-12.
Yeah.
As poorly as the TV situation has gone, the revenue situation, the commissioner situation, I just think it's an incredibly awkward time for the Pac-12. Announcing last week you're not expanding, huge mistake. Huge mistake in my opinion. I just think that we have gotten into a point where the Pac-12 has weakened itself to vulnerability. And if I'm the Big 12, I have to do what I have to do. And I'm going after you're not going to get Oregon. You're not going to get USC.
It's not the marquee names, but it's Colorado. It's, Arizona.
Absolutely. If you are, and this is I guess the question I would ask, if you're the Big 12, why haven't you called Utah?
Yeah. Great question. Great question.
If you add a quality program like Utah, if you're the Big 12, why haven't you called Washington State? Why haven't you gone after the bottom 9 teams in the Pac-12? You have to get aggressive here. I mean, if you think about the Big 10, if you're the Big 12, have you called Nebraska? And if you haven't, why not? How is that a phone call you haven't made?
Yeah.
Have you called Minnesota? Have you go be crazy, go be delusional, have them laugh you off the phone. And I'm being serious. Have them laugh you off the phone. Because I don't think you're in a position, with all due respect to BYU, I just don't think adding BYU and SMU makes you what you once were. It does not make you whole.
You're never going to replace Texas and Oklahoma. That's not happening.
Yeah.
Like that just needs to be understood.
Kenny's first in this morning. He says, "Good morning, fellas. If you're in BYU's position, yes, maybe you want to join a conference eventually, but you don't want to carry a conference at the same time."
Yeah. And you don't want to put at risk, what all this good momentum that you have going. There's just no reason to do that. So, for once, I think BYU has to be selfish. And by the way, not that we have to go down this rabbit hole, but just another question that I think is important in this conversation is, let's say that BYU were to join the Big 12. Well, now you can no longer say that Utah has more to lose than BYU in the Holy War. Like, there's a lot to lose for BYU in the Holy War. So I think that's why this whole joining a conference thing, obviously it's a big deal, but I think there's just so many angles on it if you're BYU. Like, A, does it make us better? B, do we continue to operate in the black, as he famously said? C, can we continue to add NIL deals being, part of the Big 12 versus being an independent? Like, I'm sure you can, but how does that impact those kind of conversations? Is it a positive? Is it a negative? Like, these are all things that you have to consider. It's not as easy as just saying, hey, can we go out and win the Big 12 every single year so that we can be closer to a championship? That might be what fans care about, but I can tell you right now, if you're an athletic director, you're looking at a P&L statement. You're looking at recruiting. You're looking at, like, hey, how does this help the institution as a whole? All of these things. This is more than just football, man.
Listen, I think on paper, simply stated, it looks like joining the Big 12 is the quickest route to a national championship. I don't know if that's true or not. Does your schedule improve if you join the Big 12?
Not really.
I don't know. Do you lose the Utah State game if you join the Big 12? Do you lose the Boise game if you join the Big 12? Is Iowa State better than Boise or Utah State? Probably. I don't know. Does it improve your strength of schedule? Does it improve your attractiveness to the playoff committee?
See, I think it does, but I think so. Like, in terms of attractiveness to the playoff committee, I think for BYU the standard still remains largely the same. Whether you're in the conference or not, you basically have to win all your games. You have to get, like, if you're in the Big 12, you have to win the Big 12 to get in if you're BYU. And I also think that credibility-wise, yes, joining the conference will really help BYU. But at the end of the day, none of the, hey, are they going to get into the Final Four for college football? None of that matters unless you continue to recruit well and unless you have a good program going.
And the other thing I think needs to be said is BYU has to learn to value itself, and I think they've learned that through independence. There were so many people that pronounced BYU dead on arrival in independence, and that never came to fruition. But you're attractive to the Big 12. If for no other reason, then you could join next season if you really wanted to. You don't have to pay some huge,
Nope.
fee to break a contract, right? Yeah, you don't. You don't have to worry about, like the money, you don't have to, look at Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah.
Well, we can't join for 2 years. And does anybody think college football is going to be the same today as it is in 2 years?
No.
It's not. And so when I look at BYU is a commodity. They make money. They make the Big 12 more money than they're making now. They are available, which is a big deal. And they're a really good football and basketball program. I mean, is this a football-only deal? I don't know. Is Sunday play that big of a deal? Not in the WCC. It's not. For basketball, I mean, I don't know. I just think it's interesting to see how this deal will go down. And it better make BYU more money. And it can't just be, well, they have access to the playoff now, so that inherently makes them more money, because it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. You're not desperate. You don't need the Big 12.
Let's put it this way. There's a lot of opportunity to mess this up and very little opportunity to get it right. However, if you do get it right, that could be, obviously game-changing to your program. So you just have to be – that's why I say, like, I'm not trying to speak in generalities, but to wrap this thing up, like, there is so much to consider here. It is not just, hey, can we get to the college football playoff?
Right,
like, for an institution like BYU, and no shade to anybody else in the Big 12, but BYU, to me, brand-wise, is above them. BYU's brand is 10 times as strong as SMU or any of these rando schools in this
anybody
conference.
that's in the Big 12 right now, BYU is on par with them. They're not Oklahoma. BYU is not Oklahoma.
No.
BYU is not Texas. I don't know many other teams in the country that are.
Are they Baylor?
Oh, absolutely.
I agree.
They have more, in my opinion, you have more history and tradition than Baylor does. And I think you are certainly, there's not a team in the Big 12 that is a bigger brand than BYU. There isn't.
Yeah.
And frankly, looking at Kalani and the way they've built this program, I don't know that there's a better football program in the Big 12 than BYU right now. So
we'll see.
If I'm BYU again, it's what I would say. I always say this about having a daughter. You better make sure that you value yourself. You better understand that you are a commodity, right, in dating. You better understand that. You never value yourself, but I always tell you to, which is why I talk about having a daughter. Anyway, the point is...
Hater, bro.
What?
Hater.
The point is, all I'm saying, in all seriousness, BYU needs to value itself. Harper Brace says no one will want BYU in their conference. Okay. Let's see how that turns out for you, bro. James Knight says, hi, guys. Great job with the video over the weekend. Great insight into your personal life. Yeah, we're doing a weekly vlog now that consumes our entire weekend and takes a ton of effort. In the vlog that we posted yesterday, it was tattoos, me being fat, us working out,
Bro.
and what? What?
You can't let it go.
No, I can't. Do a vlog on YouTube of yourself, and it's amazing that you add 150 pounds. Anyway, well, in my case, it'd be like 300 pounds. But the point is, we worked out, we smoked some chicken. My wife smoked tofu, which I wish now I had eaten because she said it was amazing. But we're going to do that every week. We're going to try and do one this week, even though Mrs. Monty and I will be at Yellowstone this weekend. So we'll see. I should be able to create some content off of that. So we'll see how that goes. Tanner Plummer says BYU needs to get in the Big 12 right now. They need that P5 status. Yes, there is a risk, but I feel that it's a necessary risk. This is the best chance, and it could be their last chance.
Agreed.
What?
Agreed. I think this could be their last best chance for a while. I don't think you have these kind of chances just falling off trees.
I think there is college football realignment for years to come. So this won't be their last chance. The question is, do you shoot your shot right now? Because I don't know who else is staying in the Big 12 and who's coming with me. Those two questions have to be asked. Do you have long-term commitments out of the other schools? Hey, I need to know, have you called Iowa? Have you called Nebraska? Have you called Colorado? We need, because those are the kind of brands that the Big 12 needs. Right? Have you called them and, tried to bring them into the fold?
Yeah.
Because it'd be nice if the Big 12 had, 12 teams. That'd be cool. So to me, I think you need to know what's the plan. Who are you talking to? Because the Big 12, with all due respect, again, the Cincinnati, which is a joke, if it's BYU and Cincinnati, BYU should not go. Should not go. If it's BYU in Central Florida, they shouldn't go. It makes
That's
no
a tough
sense.
conversation, dude. That's a really tough conversation because on the other side of that, not that I'm saying you're wrong because I pretty much agree with you, but on the other side of that, don't you have to say to yourself, like, all right, yeah, we don't love the teams that are joining this conference, but how much weight is there in the P5 status thing? Because I think that, like that is for BYU specifically, because they're an independent, that has to be a major factor in the conversation. Obviously, your goal is to get to the college football playoff and continue, because that's the next thing for them. They have to start, getting to this thing where they're constantly in that conversation. Yes. But to do that as an independent is damn near impossible. So to me, does getting to the college football playoff make you more money? Well, yeah, sure. But at the end of the day, I think what's more important for BYU is the relevance of constantly being talked about on ESPN and constantly being in Mel Kiper's mouth and all these things that you need. You can't tell me that kind of growth isn't valuable to the program. So that's what I mean when I say you got to weigh, okay, P5 status / relevancy versus all the good things we have going as an independent and all the great scheduling we have going on and money making we have going on.
I don't want to replace Pac-12 schools on my schedule with Cincinnati.
Right.
With
That's
Central
tough.
Florida.
That's tough, yeah.
With Memphis is another team I've heard a lot about. Not interested.
Yeah.
Again, if you want to talk to me about any of the Big Ten teams, Colorado, think about another, like a San Diego State.
Yeah.
San Diego State would be a great addition to the Big 12. Now, they're probably a little too Pacific Coast for you, but I just think you have to swing for the fences here.
Yeah.
If you are the Big 12, and again, I would go at this from BYU's perspective. I'm not leaving Independence to go and play Central frickin' Florida. I'm not doing it. I'm not leaving Independence just to play Iowa State and SMU every year. I've already got a better schedule than that.
Yeah.
And I'm already on ESPN, and I'm already profitable. What's the win for me at that point? Because when major conference realignment happens, and it will, and we stop talking about, land grants, major research institutions. You really think that's what college football is about? Land grants and research institutions. Now, that's what the arrogance and the aloof folks at the Pac-12 will tell you. Wow, I mean, we're not here to win football games. We're here to fund research. No,
what an idiot!
Yeah, no, you're not. You're not. Please stop. Okay, listen. Maybe at Stanford, sure. Did anybody see what UCLA did? Anybody? I mean, like, they kicked ass. They're here to win football games. Do you think USC wants to be a great film school, or do they want to be a national championship so they can pay for their great film school? This is a money issue. It's a win football games issue. At some point, the Pac-12 is going to have to let go of their Rolls Royces and their research institutions of higher learning. Okay, great. Head up to Berkeley and smoke some weed. We're going to go win football games.
That's enough of that crap.
All right, I feel better.
All right, good. Perfect.
You're welcome.
Yeah, great.
Jeremy Bolton says, agreed, James. Great stuff about our vlog. And good morning. Good morning, Jeremy. He also says they're making less money in the Big 12 than the current contract with ESPN. No, the question is, are you going to make more money in the Big 12? Because if you're not, why would you do it?
Yeah.
I'm not going to go give away some of my TV revenue that I'm bringing to the table that might bring me closer to the red line. I'm not doing that. That's all I care about. I think Kenny says, I think the money is worse unless they get good schools to join with them. Agreed 100%. Wow, comment dump. Daryl Adams says, Blue Cougars and Red Cougars have had a few good games. I think, am I the only one that thinks the Pac-12 is vulnerable?
Well, I mean, they're just not respected. I mean, vulnerable, not respected. You're not in a good place. I mean, yeah. You could be easily had, sure.
There has been talk for many years now, and I think Texas tried to do it. In 2015, they tried to build a mega conference. I think there is some thought of a west of the Mississippi mega conference. And I'll be interested to see if Texas actually gets to the SEC, because if the door swings open and Texas and USC can be the linchpins of a new mega conference.
Come on. Those are premier brands.
You're doing that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why do you think Nike and Brand Jordan is so heavily involved in college football? Because they've got the money to make a difference. And I think ESPN is a really intelligent business operation. And ESPN, if you think ESPN isn't having a major impact on BYU to the Big 12, you're crazy.
Yep.
You're crazy. And college football is all about money, man. It really is. I get Houston, but SMU, I'm not sure about SMU joining the Big 12. SMU is a great football program. The death penalty of what was that, 1988, 87, something like that. They're over that now. SMU is and by the way, I'd also remind you, Does anybody know, and I'm going to guess you don't know this.
Uh-huh.
I'm probably going to make you look like an idiot.
All right.
Where is SMU based?
I don't know.
Dallas, Texas.
Neat.
So that's a huge
Where's
huge
Texas
metroplex. Texas is in Austin.
That's my point.
Yeah, it's a huge metroplex. Dallas is a nice market.
Is that not the best example of where the Big 12 is at?
Yeah, it is. It is.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be a douche about it, but that's where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, SMU makes a lot of sense. Big TV market. Big TV market.
I'll agree with that. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can do
Dallas,
numbers. Yeah.
they play in Dallas. It is SMU. I think a lot of people don't understand that SMU is Texas football. SMU, back in the Craig James days and SMU.
It's not a bad brand. It's a great school. I mean,
especially
the issue is,
in the footprint of the Big 12,
Yeah.
SMU's a big brand.
I just think the issue right now is you've got the Pac-12 where they're just it's embarrassing. Let's just tell it how it is.
But to what? When you say it's embarrassing,
The
what's
quality
embarrassing?
of play, the lack of recruiting, the lack of relevancy. Who the hell cares about the Pac-12 come college football playoff time? I'm sick and tired of hearing about Alabama and Georgia and Clemson and who's going to be the fourth team. I'm sick and tired of that, dude. That's every single year. And I never hear about Oregon. I've heard about Utah one time. You never hear about USC, even though they're the Jesus Christ of the Pac-12. I mean,
it's the Joseph Smith.
Like,
of the
what are they
Pac-12.
What are they gonna do, dude? What are they gonna do? Oh, they've got Keaton Slovis. My God, Keaton Slovis. Like, who cares? Go and prove it. Go and win the Pac-12, and then get into the college football playoff. Then we can start talking about.
USC needs to get back to the Lawrence Jackson,
dude,
those big names,
be something
dominant. Clay Matthews, Brian Cushing,
put up 30 on Utah. Do something.
Yeah,
that's what the Pac-12 needs. They need. It's not the Pac-12's issues. Don't lie with Oregon State and Stanford and UCLA. They don't lie with those schools. They lie with USC. Oregon and Utah. Those three schools are the ones that have a true chance. I don't put a lot of stock into Washington right now. I don't think they were. I don't think they are who they were a couple years ago.
No, and I think the intriguing team in the Pac-12 right now is UCLA. I'm stunned that they dominated like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
we'll see.
DTR was really good. I mean,
we'll see.
Really good. Really, really good. eBay the Sofa Surfer says, yo, what's up? He goes, Texas has Matthew McConaughey. All right. Duh.
And Kevin Durant.
Kenny says, if the Big 12 got BYU and Utah, that would be great. But that's the home run that the Big 12 needs. But I don't know that the Big 12 is thinking that way. If I'm the Big 12, I am looking to go big. I'm telling you, the first call I make if I'm the Big 12, Nebraska, number one. We want you back in the league. I'd call Iowa. Absolutely, I'd call Iowa. I'd call Colorado and Utah. Those are the teams I would call.
And we're just assuming BYU's there.
No, I wouldn't call BYU. I would call BYU second. I would be, with all due respect to the Cougs, I mean, I need to replace Oklahoma in Texas. I need major brands that are football powerhouses.
Which is why SMU doesn't quite get it done.
No, that's exactly right. I think that's why you can't add Central Florida. You need Colorado, Utah, Nebraska, Iowa. Go poach some people.
Yeah.
Problem is the Big Ten makes their teams money. They do.
It's true.
And I've heard for years that Nebraska would love to. Nebraska has done nothing in the Big Ten. It has been an abject failure. And I think regionally, the one thing I'll say about a conference like the SEC and the ACC, once you add Texas and Oklahoma, it doesn't hold true anymore. But if you look at the SEC, they dominate the Southeast. You look at the ACC, they've got a bunch of teams that make regional sense. And then the SEC adds Oklahoma and Texas. I mean, it's like, why do you have West Virginia in the Big 12? That's an awkward fit.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that college football is going to realign, and I just wonder who's it going to be. All right. Kenny says, I agree with that. Brandon Whiteside says, BYU has the leverage. They have affiliation with ESPN. They dictate the terms. That's right.
Yeah.
Jake, you're awesome, man. You need to value yourself.
Yeah, thanks, bro. Appreciate that.
Well, I mean, and there's always plastic surgery for you.
Yeah.
Yep. Kenny says, I hate that there's not 12 teams in the Big 12. A lot of people say that. Greg Hawkins says if BYU moves to the Big 12, then any Utah-BYU game would be P5 interconference game and would win. Any win would look much better for the college football playoff. Absolutely.
Yes.
Casey Finlayson said, who is coming with BYU to join, and did Bowlesby kill any opportunity for the Big 12 and ESPN to work out a TV deal? Those are the questions I have about BYU to the Big 12. Well, BYU, and it depends on who you believe here, because the Bowlesby thing is interesting. If you didn't hear the Tim Brando, Bob Bowlesby interview, you absolutely should go find it. Find Tim Brando on Twitter. There's a link there, but I think BYU opens the door for ESPN in the Big 12. And this is not going to be easy. Anybody that thinks this is going to be an easy thing is wrong. You're absolutely wrong. The Silver Surfer says they are better than TCU and West Virginia brand-wise, not Nebraska, though. Tanner Plummer says, Monty, BYU has more to gain if they play UCF, SMU, and Houston as a Big 12 team than they do playing Utah, USC, and Arizona State as an independent. You're crazy.
But
I
I
just
think
don't
that's
agree
a
with that.
fascinating conversation, though. You know, agree or disagree, that for BYU is the conversation. Like, what because it is an opinion-based conversation, right? At the end of the day, it's an opinion-based conversation. So if you're Tom Holmoe and you're looking at this thing and you're like, hey, this is what we have now versus this is what we potentially have, what do I feel like would be better for us?
And can we run the table in either scenario?
Exactly.
Because BYU, let's say BYU wins the Big 12 championship game, auto bid, okay, you're in.
Yes.
But my question is, if you don't win the Big 12 championship, which is going to be difficult to do, and let's say you go 11-1, are you in? Probably not. Are you in?
I think it's a year-to-year thing.
I think it is too. It's very difficult to get in either way. The auto bid helps. Like you have a clear path to the college football playoff. There's no doubt about that.
And with that clear path, you would think that, at some point you'll be able to utilize that, which would bring more money into your program, which is why I think, that's why I say, like, I know I don't disagree with you about the, having the premier Pac-12 teams on your schedule is a big deal. But at the end of the day, what formula have we seen to get to where they want to go?
Well, I mean, the formula that really works is play lower tier teams and go undefeated and get into the college football playoff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's if we're being honest.
Which is the Big 12.
Which is why you see teams saying, hey, you need to have P5 teams on every game of your schedule, which I get. It's a philosophical thing.
Yes.
There's no doubt joining the Big 12 gives you a clear, direct A equals B equals college football playoff path.
Yes.
There's no question about that. And if that's your point, Tanner, okay, I agree with that.